Welcome to the Man Fire Podcast, where we help men bring more fire to their lives. This is episode number 7. I hate being used. Dealing with adverse situations. When I was 12 years old, I walked into the administrative office of my middle school and asked for a work permit application. I was pretty sure you had to be at least 15 or 16 to legally work a normal job. But to my surprise, the woman sitting behind the counter handed me a thin, pink slip of paper, clearly stating that as of the age of 12, I could work up to 2 hours a day and 10 hours a week as an adult. Goodbye lanyards and potholders, and hello tax withholdings. I was ready for a real job. I knocked on every business door I could find in a half-mile radius, asking if they had any openings. Rejections must have been easier for me in those days because I can't even recall all the no's I kept hearing. All I remember was the map and travel book store that told me to come back later that week. And I did. I walked in on a Wednesday after school, announcing that I was back as requested, and a small back room of 3 or 4 employees just stared at me, not sure what to make of my simplicity and directness. "Why do you want to work here?" one of them asked, gesturing at the overloaded desks, disheveled stacks of inventory, and general raggedness about the store. "I just want a job," I said. So they gave me one. And for the next 2 weeks, I straightened up, organized, alphabetized, sanitized, rolled, folded, sorted, stacked, stocked, overstocked, restocked, and made presentable every corner I could find in that store. I loved every minute of it. Then the boss returned from the Amazon. It turns out it was the employees who had decided to engage my services and had been paying me with cash taken right out of the register. Called in to face the music, the boss took in the measure of me, sized up the situation, and decided to make an honest employee out of me. Pay stubs, work permit, and all. Shortly thereafter, we had an electronic inventory system installed and needed someone diligent to start entering ISBN barcodes and catalog item IDs into the system, manually. What better job for a minimum wage 12-year-old with an eye for detail? I was given a ruler and a pencil and was set in front of a computer terminal to enter 12, 16, and 20-digit codes for hours at a time. My mental focus was admirable, but this task was impossible. What made it worse was my boss seemed to enjoy announcing in front of everyone when an error on my part had been discovered. When I tried to explain the futility in entering these mind-numbing codes accurately for hours on end, he chastised my insubordination and reassured me that it builds character. What I felt, though, was that I was being used, and that building character was code for you do the crap jobs. Fast forward about 20 years, and I was the proud owner of a fourplex with shamefully poor drainage at the back of its parking lot. I hummed and hawed, took plenty of redundant photos, and generally wrung my hands over the standing water until enough seasons had gone by to convince me I just had to jump in. 90 feet of asphalt, a second concrete sidewalk buried just out of reach of my diamond blade, and a 4-inch pipe that started at my ankle and gradually descended to the full length of my leg. This builds character, I thought. Fun fact, that was also the summer I discovered a whole new genre of music. Driving down to the supply yard in my red Mazda B3000 compact pickup, windows down in the 98-degree heat because the AC had never worked, picking up 2,000 pounds of squeegee gravel in a truck that I'm sure was iffy with just one. I had never felt more manly. And what a man needs on a day like that is to find a good country music station on his radio and sing loud enough for all to hear. Back in the office, we were all having lunch and sharing our weekend stories. When I laid out my hard-won achievements over my parking lot, my boss delivered a disdainful look and asked, "Why don't you pay someone else to do that kind of work? Clearly you make enough money." This was a rhetorical question, but I couldn't help myself. "It builds character," I told him. The words fell on deaf ears, so I left it at that. Having missed the mark with 2 bosses on the same antiquated phrase, I started to ruminate on what it was in a task that builds character. When work is thrust on me and I find myself on my back foot, scared, intimidated, or embarrassed, I feel used by the task, and I hate being used. But when I decide to take the jackhammer in my own hands, mount an assault on the task, and apply myself to breaking down anything that offers resistance, what comes out of it is sweet. I don't own rental properties anymore, thank God, nor do I answer to any bosses, blessed be, but I still have plenty of work to do. This summer I retired my cement mixer, swapping it out for a wheelbarrow and backhoe. The concrete pads along the alley didn't get poured any faster, but I came out of the shower on each one of those days several steps ahead inside. And when I tucked in my shirt before heading out to dinner, soothed by well-earned strength and confidence, I remembered the 400-year-old words of Shakespeare. Sweet are the uses of adversity. If you liked this message, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to Manfire Movement on YouTube. You can also listen to the Manfire podcast in your favorite podcast player. And finally, visit manfiremovement.com for live events and workshops.